Personnel at this station include a station leader and a Radiological Protection Specialist, or RPS. The Radiological Protection Specialist provides radiological technical assistance to the EWD Center staff regarding monitoring and decontamination. Tasks include receiving, storing, and securing field samples, arranging for transportation of environmental samples to the Minnesota Department of Health lab, ensuring proper decontamination procedures are being followed, monitoring and updating background count rates. To set up the station, obtain the instructions included in the setup kit. Post all signs and barriers and contact the decon chief if you're missing or need additional supplies. Obtain survey meters and dosimetry. Ensure all station personnel are wearing dosimetry and proper PPE at all times. If at any time you have questions about radiation, contact the County Radiological Officer. For procedural or setup questions, contact the decon chief. When the station is set up and operational, notify the decon chief. Ensure that contaminated waste disposal locations are set up and easily identified. The Vehicle Monitoring Station Leader will advise you when environmental samples arrive. Conduct an initial background radiation reading. Communicate the background radiation reading to all stations and update charts. Continue monitoring background radiation levels at the frequency outlined in the procedures. Observe monitoring and decontamination activities. If incorrect monitoring or decontamination procedures are happening, advise the monitor or decontamination specialist on the proper techniques. Examples of incorrect techniques are monitoring too fast, holding the monitoring probe too far or too close to the surface, overspraying contaminated areas with water, reaching over contamination boundaries, not changing gloves or boot covers when crossing boundaries, touching or brushing against potentially contaminated surfaces. Respond to facility worker inquiries and questions regarding monitoring and decontamination guidelines. Contact the decon chief if additional information is needed. Maintain cross-contamination controls. Stay in the clean areas unless requested to a contaminated area to provide assistance. Before entering a contaminated area, put on shoe covers. After providing assistance in the contaminated area, report to the Personnel Monitoring Station for monitoring. Remove shoe covers when exiting contamination control areas. Ensure radiological contaminated waste is handled properly. Locate contaminated waste locations and ensure that all personnel are aware of its location. Ensure that the waste container is lined with a plastic bag. Notify the decon chief when contaminated waste accumulates. Contaminated waste is placed in a secured location until pickup. As environmental samples arrive, emergency workers will remove each environmental sample bag from their vehicle. The environmental sampling bags will be placed into an additional plastic bag and secured at the top with tape. Take a smear sample to ensure the outer bag is not contaminated. The emergency workers will transfer the environmental sample to the RPS by filling in the appropriate sections of the chain of custody form. Contact the County Radiological Officer to arrange for pickup and transportation to the Minnesota Department of Health lab. Field samples must be placed in a secured location until pickup. At the end of the shift, brief replacement workers. Sign the chain of custody forms for all field samples, relinquishing them to the new RPS. Report to personnel monitoring and then sign out and return dosimetry.